We are starting this deep dive in probably one of literature's most dramatic settings, the vast, desolate white of the Arctic ice floes.
Just an incredible opening.
Yeah, you have Captain Walton writing home, and he's describing this desperate, ruined figure. He's just hauled aboard his ship, Victor Frankenstein.
And he's barely alive. Emaciated, but still.
Yeah.
There's this fire in his eyes.
An eloquent passion, but it's pure hatred. He's chasing this monstrous, gigantic shape across the ice, driven by a pursuit that has already cost him absolutely everything.
It's the perfect way to frame the story.
Yeah.
Because Walton is seeing the end result, the ruin,
Mm-hmm.
and then Victor starts his tale, which is, at its core, a confession.
Exactly. So our mission today is to conduct a kind of deep breakdown of their motives.
Right. We need to stop seeing this as just a simple horror story and start asking a really piercing psychological question.
Which is?
If a creature is made wicked entirely by rejection, where does the real villainy actually lie?
And we believe the sources make a pretty devastating case here. Victor Frankenstein is the antagonist.
It's a tragedy, really, rooted in profound parental negligence, spurred on by his own searing narcissism.
And the result is this sensitive being who is corrupted, step by step, entirely by rejection. It's the ultimate lesson in a creator's responsibility.
So let's get into Victor's head. Let's go right back to the beginning, before the creature even exists.
His motivation.
Yeah, his motivation. If you look at it closely, it was never about humble, benevolent science. It was pure, unadulterated personal glory.
He practically admits it, doesn't he, in those letters to Walton?
Oh, completely. He says, and I'm quoting here, he preferred glory to every enticement that wealth placed in my path.
So it wasn't primarily about the benefit to mankind. It was about elevating himself. He sees his discovery as this inestimable benefit on all mankind, which, conveniently elevates him to a godlike status.
He feels an enthusiasm which elevates me to heaven. It's scientific hubris on a scale we can barely imagine.
He's not trying to serve humanity. He's trying to gain dominion over nature.
He is stepping into the role of God. And that drive, that narcissistic, all-consuming enthusiasm, it vanishes the second his work succeeds.
Okay, so take us to that exact moment. He's toiled for almost 2 years. He's sacrificed his health, his relationships, everything for this one instant.
On that dreary night of November at 1 a.m.
What is his immediate reaction when the creature's dull yellow eye finally opens?
Instant, visceral revulsion. He says, the beauty of the dream vanished.
Wow.
All those hours of labor, the stolen bodies, the feverish work, it all just dissolves into breathless horror and disgust.
He sees the reality of what he's made, and he can't bear it.
Exactly. And it's not just that the creature is ugly. The horror is rooted in his own transgression, in the sudden, stomach-dropping realization of his irreversible mistake.
And his response isn't to take responsibility or even to, study his creation.
No.
It's the ultimate act of parental desertion.
It is absolute abandonment. He rushes out of the room, unable to endure the aspect of the being I had created. He literally flees into the courtyard.
Terrified.
Terrified of what he calls the demoniacal corpse to which I had so miserably given life.
Think about that phrase, miserably given life.
Yeah. I mean, this is a creator who, within seconds of success, sees his own creation as a catastrophic mistake, an object of disgust, not a living being that's owed guidance or compassion.
And maybe the greatest evidence that this whole thing is still all about him is what happens next, his illness.
His nervous fever, right?
He spends months in agony, but this suffering isn't remorse for the creature he abandoned?
Not at all. It's horror over the consequences for himself.
Right.
He curses his own hands, he suffers profoundly, but his agony is entirely self-focused. He never sends a servant back to the lab. He never once thinks, what happened to the being I left alone in the world? Is it hungry? Is it cold? Is it confused?
His own misery just reinforces his status as the victim in the story he's telling Walton. He's the one who suffers the fever, so he's the one who deserves the pity.
It's a complete abdication of responsibility.
So that intense, self-focused agony, it leads us directly to the result of his abandonment. If Victor is trapped in his own head, what's happening to the creature who is now left to navigate a world completely alone?
And now we step out of Victor's fever dream and into the creature's true birth in the forest near Ingolstadt. And this is where we see he's an absolute blank slate.
An infant mind in a giant's body.
Totally. He describes the initial sensory overload as a strange multiplicity of sensations seized me, and I saw, felt, heard, and smelt at the same time.
Yeah.
Just pure chaos.
And his learning curve is, well, it's entirely self-taught. primal. There's no morality to it yet. He finds fire, which is just the perfect metaphor for his entire existence.
It is. He's overcome with delight at the warmth, and then, like a child, he thrusts his hand into the embers and is met with immediate searing pain.
He doesn't understand malice or fear yet.
No, he's just baffled that the same thing could produce pleasure and agony. He's learning through trial and error, not instruction. This is the very definition of innocence.
And his real education begins when he finds that little hovel attached to the DeLacy cottage.
Right. He's observing humanity from this hidden spot, like a voyeuristic student.
So what does he learn from the DeLacys?
He learns goodness. He learns patience and affection. He watches them talk, and he calls language a godlike science. He sees Felix collecting wood for his starving family. He even notices their suffering. He sees that Agatha and Felix often starve themselves to make sure their blind father has enough to eat. He's seeing sacrifice and virtue firsthand. He's internalizing the noblest parts of the human spirit.
But then his learning gets crystallized by actual literature. He finds that satchel, the portmanteau, with 3 books that just completely shape his worldview. It's a tragic curriculum, isn't it?
It's profoundly tragic, because they teach him all these concepts he can never, ever attain.
So what are the books?
He finds Plutarch's Lives, which introduces him to high thoughts and an ardor for virtue. He's learning about heroes, about noble human conduct. Then there's the Sorrows of Werther, which shows him the crushing weight of loneliness, despondency, and gloom.
But it's Paradise Lost that just slams the door on him.
That's the one. That analogy is everything.
Why? Why does Milton's epic just shatter his sense of self?
Because it gives him a framework for existence that immediately confirms his own exclusion. He realizes he's a fallen angel, rejected, cast out. But he compares himself to Adam.
Who was?
Adam was created perfect, cherished by his creator, given a companion, welcomed into the world. The creature realizes he should have been Victor's Adam.
And instead?
Instead, he's Satan, a creature with a powerful intellect whose only heritage is loneliness and rejection.
But the profound difference there is that Satan, at least in the epic, had companions in hell. The creature has no one.
No one. And this forces him to look at himself through society's eyes.
And that's the agonizing moment.
That's the self-realization. He finally understands the complex layers of human society, wealth, rank, family, and then he looks at his own reflection.
What does he see?
He sees himself as hideously deformed and loathsome. He literally cries out, "No father had watched my infant days. No mother had blessed me with smiles and caresses." His misery isn't physical anymore. It's existential.
So all this knowledge of virtue and love, it just becomes a mirror reflecting his own total isolation. And that loneliness, which is a direct result of abandonment, it drives him to try and connect.
One last time.
And that attempt, of course, seals his fate.
He makes a really smart, calculated move. He decides to approach the blind M. DeLacy first.
Right, because without sight.
He's hoping that in the absence of that visual fatal prejudice, he can appeal directly to the old man's heart. And for a moment it works. The old man offers him brotherly love and charity.
This is the absolute peak of his hope, and the collapse is just, it's so sudden and violent. What happens when Felix and Agatha get back?
They violently reaffirm everything he ever feared.
Yeah.
Felix, the man he watched perform all these acts of kindness.
What does he do?
He struck me violently with a stick, tears the creature away from his father. And the creature is powerful enough, he says, he could have torn him limb from limb.
But he doesn't.
He chooses restraint. He feels only this profound, bitter sickness. He understands in that one moment that no virtue, no eloquence, no goodness can ever overcome his appearance.
And that's it. That rejection, that one final act of violence, that's the turning point. Benevolence dies and malice is born.
Absolutely. He's driven from the cottage, and in a fit of despair, he burns it to the ground. And he makes this explicit psychological statement that confirms the whole tragedy. He says, "I was benevolent and good. Misery made me a fiend."
The malice is conditional. It's a reaction to relentless pain.
And it's compounded, isn't it? He saves a little girl from drowning, and what's his reward?
He gets shot. The man, the rustic, just assumes he's attacking her.
Society has given him nothing but pain and violence, so
Yeah.
the path to vengeance against his creator is now laid bare.
And that vengeance starts with the most vulnerable person in Victor's life, young William.
And in that moment, the creature tastes the intoxicating power of destruction. He realizes he's a force now. He exclaims, "I too can create desolation. My enemy is not invulnerable."
The victim has become the avenger.
And his next act of malice, framing the innocent Justine Moritz, that forces us to look right back at Victor and his repeated fatal blindness.
This is where Victor's moral cowardice becomes, I think, unforgivable.
I agree. He knows his demon is the killer. He watches Justine's trial. He says he suffers living torture, yet he stays paralyzed.
Why? What's his excuse?
It's his reputation. He's afraid that confessing the astounding horror would be looked upon as madness by the vulgar.
So he values his social standing, avoiding ridicule, more than he values an innocent human life.
He is willing to sacrifice an innocent woman to protect his secret. The self-pity is just. It's bottomless.
It is, and this exact same negligence carries him straight to his final undoing.
When the creature confronts him and demands a female companion, Victor refuses.
And the creature delivers that terrifying threat. I will be with you on your wedding night.
Which Victor hears and completely misinterprets.
Right, he assumes it's a threat against his own life.
Which, in his self-destructive state, he kind of accepts. He thinks, if I die, but at least I'm protecting others. So he goes ahead with the marriage to Elizabeth, partly to satisfy his father.
He completely fails to understand the creature's true motivation. It's so much deeper than that.
He wanted to destroy Victor's happiness, not just his life. By assuming the threat was only about him, Victor leaves Elizabeth, his ultimate source of joy, completely exposed and undefended on their wedding night.
He was blinded to the creature's psychological malice because he could never, ever truly empathize with the creature's profound loneliness.
The creature achieved exactly what he set out to do. He made sure Victor would feel the same absolute isolation that he had suffered.
Which brings us back full circle, to the Arctic, to that ship, with the creature standing over Victor's corpse, offering his final psychological synthesis of it all.
He confesses that impotent envy poisoned his soul when Victor dared to seek happiness while he was left utterly alone. And he confronts Walton and us with the ultimate challenge. He asks, am I to be thought the only criminal when all humankind sinned against me?
And what's so tragic is that even in death, Victor is unrepentant. He tells Walton he spent his final hours examining my past conduct, nor do I find it blamable.
He dies a narcissist. Believing his duty to his own species somehow excused his fundamental failure to care for the sensitive being he deliberately brought into the world.
It's the perfect summation of the tragedy. He sought glory and dominion, but he died claiming he was not blamable for the ruin he unleashed.
You know, his own father once talked about the immense power a parent holds, that it's in their hands to direct their child's future lot to happiness or misery.
And Victor directed his creation toward absolute misery. The whole story forces you to look beyond the monstrous appearance and straight into accountability.
It really does.
So the question we're left with is this. If a being is brought into the world capable of virtue, and is only pushed into malice by the deliberate, repeated abandonment of its creator, where does the responsibility truly lie?
What is the measure of a person's worth? Their good intentions or the destructive evil they negligently unleash upon the world? A harrowing thought that reminds us that sometimes the most monstrous thing isn't the physical form, but the profound, intentional failure of a person to care for the life they created.